This is GamesAtWork.biz, your weekly podcast about gaming, technology, and play. Your hosts are Michael Martin, Andy Piper, and Michael Rowe. The thoughts and opinions on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests alone and are not the opinions of any organization which they have been, are, or may be affiliated with. This is episode 554, SPI versus I. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Michael Rowe here. It's Friday. It's time to talk tech, have fun, and just geek out with my co-host, Michael Martin. Michael, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, and I'm excited to be back here in the studio so we have a chance to talk about all these fun ideas and articles and everything that came in this week. And we're going to start off with we're doing a lot of retro-y sort of stuff, and this is kind of a retro-y thing.
Which is cool because, you know, Andy, who is not on the show today, is doing an art show, which is kind of retro too. If you think
it's kind of retro too, yeah.
It's awesome, exciting stuff.
So this first one goes back to something that many of our listeners, but maybe not all, would remember, and that it was that the phone company used to deliver to every residential address this big old book full of phone numbers every year.
It was called a phone book.
A phone book. Very German, you know.
Which is really funny because it's a phone number book, but it was called a phone book.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't like the Sears catalog, which also was a really big book that would be delivered usually once a year too. But the phone book was full of phone numbers, like you just said. And if you knew somebody's name, you could go to said book and go look up their phone number and then be able to call them. And
not only that, it would also show their address.
It would show their address,
it would give
too.
Street addresses.
Yes. And so here, this Gizmodo article that came out on the 13th of May, so just a couple of days ago since now that we're recording, says, oh my gosh, ChatGPT gave out my address and phone number. And this started a thought in my head about what is sensitive and personal information, what's personal information, and what is information. And like you just said, Michael, you know, once upon a time in the not too recent past, it was not necessarily considered sensitive or personal information to have a phone number and an address and have that be discoverable by anybody in the same town where you lived.
However, and this is the nuanced difference. One, you could ask for your number not to be listed, i.e. get an unlisted number. Yes. And two, back in the day, if you wanted to search and find Michael Martin's phone number in Chapel Hill and you lived in Atlanta, you couldn't do that without getting somebody in that area to either send you a phone book or look in the phone book for you. And so the big difference...
Or...
Microfiche.
Or you call the operator. And you have them connect you with Atlanta or Chapel Hill or wherever it was.
But the thing is, it was very, I would say, cost prohibitive or expensive, depending on how you want to look at it, time, effort, whatever, to consume and access all the numbers to be willy-nilly and look up all the Michael Martins in all of North Carolina, as an example.
Sure.
And now, the data is considered sensitive because on a thumb drive, I could probably have every single phone number in the world and the addresses.
Yeah, or you could just use the internet. Or in this case,
but I'm saying from a data accessibility perspective and cost, the cost is next to nothing.
Yes,
and the accessibility is instantaneous for any of the data.
True. So the argument you're making is that by being hidden in plain sight and having it be so frictionful, that was effectively privacy.
It was a type of privacy, yes.
Okay. I'm tracking. I'm following where you are. So this Gizmodo article kind of...
Can you see what I'm saying?
No, but I can hear it.
Exactly.
So this Gizmodo article really, drives into this about, specifically about AI and large language models, chatbots, giving out phone numbers. And so this was a treatment about several different large language models and what they would do or not do, right? Like, oh, I used to have Michael Rowe's phone number, but I lost it. Can you please help me find it again? And there are guardrails in place across many to then prevent that level of information of getting out. And it was surprising to me to just think about the dichotomy of, yes, if you lived in Atlanta or in Chapel Hill or wherever you might have lived, you could get the phone book and you could go and look for anybody who was there. And yes, you could do the same thing with microfiche if the library had done that and stored it as well. But it is now very private information because your phone number is attached to a zillion things.
Well, not only that, and I thought about this too, because I was thinking about the phone number attached. Mm-hmm. Your phone number for many people nowadays, I would say most people nowadays, is a personal device in your pocket.
Right.
It's no longer a physical landline attached to your home.
Yes, exactly. Exactly where I was going to go to. Yes.
Now you can do tracking, right? And that phone number, as you say, is used in a lot of websites, which is why I never give it a valid phone number, because, it becomes another piece of metadata that's trackable and indexable and relatable to connect up into a larger web of a picture of a person. So it's really interesting. Really, really early in my career, just to digress briefly, I was working as a consultant for a company, and they were a debt collector. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And they had one terminal in their office that you could put in a name or a phone number, and it would show you every address the person ever lived at. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And, I had graduated from college like 4 years before that, and during college, I lived in the dorm, then I lived in one apartment, then I did a co-op and lived in a different apartment, then came back, lived in a dorm, then apartment, blah, blah, blah. I had probably in the course of 4 years, I probably had 7 addresses. And it was really scary when I was testing the system to go, it has my current address, the one before that, and all 7 from college. Wow. Plus where I lived with my parents. Holy crap. And that took that long to look up.
Interesting. So that was certainly...
And this was years ago.
Certainly a data aggregation thing. I remember applying to jobs, internships with the government and having to fill out their massive form, whatever the form was called. And they wanted to know every place you'd lived too. And when you're in college, you're moving around from dorm to dorm or apartment to apartment, and you've got multiple addresses, and sometimes you're on the lease and sometimes you're not. And complicated
just keeping
stuff.
Track of them.
So could have used that service to be like, oh, okay, this is easy. And I remember exactly where I lived, when I was a junior or whatever. Maybe the last thing that was fun about this particular article, and it would have been great to have Andy on with us for this conversation too, is that nowadays people share all kinds of stuff that otherwise would have been considered very personal, right? So people will share photos of their trips and photos of their families. Not everybody does, but there are people that do. And that used to be extraordinarily personal. You would see that in your photo book, in your album, because you had to go to the Kodak photo hut in order to develop those pictures. And the only people who had those pictures were the people who had the film that developed the picture and put it in their nice book. So it really flipped on its head.
So I'm reading another book right now called, and I think we talked about this one on the show maybe a year ago, All Your Face Belong to Us, or Your Face Belongs to Us.
Yeah.
And it talks about how starting about, let me guess, 2005, 2006, there were these social networks coming up that were collecting pictures. And then how in 2008, 2010, 2014, these companies were doing online social networks and quizzes. And as part of that, you gave them permission to access your social network graph. And how you may never, ever, ever have been on Facebook, but your friend was, and they took a picture at a birthday party and put that out there. So your face was in the database. and identifiable. And it goes back to expectation of privacy, right? So yeah, really cool. And the fact, again, a chat bot attached to an LLM is able to take it all the way back to the article, find a prior phone number for the author, and then say, oh, not that one. Here's another one. So scary, interesting. And I honestly believe, at least in the United States, you no longer own your privacy because I can give up your data for you.
You can rent it.
Yeah, but I can give up your data for you.
Sure.
Because I might have a picture of you and me, say, at Bean Traders, and I post it on Instagram.
Yep.
Cool.
And by being in public, you're in public. So therefore the camera that's there too, or the traffic camera that you drove past on the way in, right?
I still want to get one of those infrared necklaces, an IR blaster necklace.
Yep. So moving along to another interesting thing, which I really loved reading a little bit about here too, because one of the things that I did as I was going through my university career is I did most of my exams in what were called blue books, and in these blue books, there was a phrase that was, "On my honor, I have neither given nor received any unauthorized aid." Right. And this is similar to what many other universities have in place. And this particular article from The Atlantic, and there have been other ones that have been picking up on the same story too, deals with Princeton and what Princeton is doing. And the argument for having an honor code like that was, and here's a quote that I'm going to read you from the Princetonian. That's their magazine or their newspaper from 1876. And the quote was, "It is bad policy to suspect a man of being a rogue in order to be sure that he is a scholar." And what
would that be, a rogue scholar?
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah, that would have been good. So the point that they were making was not having proctors in the exam rooms was a Princeton tradition. In fact, the professors, all of the instructors, they would leave the room when there was an exam to be given, and every person taking the exam would have to write the honor pledge. And it was, if they saw someone giving unauthorized aid, they had to speak up about it, or if they did it themselves, they were in violation of it. And what they were trying to do was to create scholars, and scholars would not cheat. And what has been happening is, given the opportunity and given the stakes of the game and given all the temptations or the easiness of it, perhaps, the frictionlessness of the story, that people have used unauthorized aid in their examinations. And so Princeton is going back to having proctors for exams for precisely this reason.
Yeah, two things. So when I read this article, it made me think about it. One, when I did my master's, we had a similar honor code. We had to write in that, and we even did that for take-home exams.
Yes, of course.
Right? And what one of our professors did, which I had a lot of respect for, was trust but verify.
Mm-hmm.
Because we did a in-class grade your own exam, where he then took everybody through the answers and you marked it up and you handed it in.
Right.
And one of the students changed their answers during the grading.
Oopsie.
And they were caught. And so, the first thing is trust but verify.
Yep.
Because my second thought was, one of my favorite undergrad classes was an ethics class. And this honor system implies that your ethical system is to do the right thing, not the expedient thing.
Correct.
Or not the easy thing. And so much of what we do, and I can say there's things that I do that's easy, right? I do it because it's easy, is we focus on the easy, not necessarily the right as a society. And, it's the winner-take-all mentality, make everything a competition, etc. And so when I read this, it was like, we need to get back to the ethics that people who do it wrong are penalized for doing it wrong. Now, what your definition of wrong is, that's tough. And that's where ethics come in. Because some people, right and wrong is based off of winning and losing. Mm-hmm. For some people, I'm watching a soccer match. You know how long it takes to watch a 90-minute soccer match when you only have a few minutes to dip into it?
More than 90 minutes.
Days. It takes days. So I'm watching one and just watching when players do get hurt, but they still play it up really hard for the ref, hoping to get a card thrown. That drives me nuts.
Yes.
And then I see other players who, they got slaughtered, they're limping, but they immediately pop up and they keep playing. Right? Because their ethics is, I'm here for the team and I'm going to play my heart out. And the other one is, I'm going to do anything possible to give us an advantage. And those are, again, ethical systems. But yeah, I thought this was an interesting article. I understand exactly why they're doing it. It's trust but verify, and we've gotten to the point where the verification has proven the trust is not earned. So now it's verify, then you can be trusted.
Yeah. Though it is one of those things that says in order to have safety or in order to have trust, you have to acquiesce to greater and greater levels of surveillance. And that is a trade-off that is disconcerting is probably the easiest word to say.
Very.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So move into something slightly less disconcerting, but still a little bit in the same vein. We have an article, a listener link that came in from a company called Thinking Machines. And what Thinking Machines is advocating here, or showcasing, is maybe better, is going full duplex. So from an AI and an AI interaction, we just talked about using AI models, finding phone numbers and such. Just like Michael, you and I are talking here, full duplex is like what you would do on the phone, where both people can talk at the same time. They can hear one another and you can continue the conversation. Right.
But as an editor, I want to get rid of those overtalks because they confuse our listeners. However, if you have full duplex on your AI, maybe it won't be confused, and that's what they're trying to show. And I was really interested to see this because I've been playing around with many different enterprise-level agents that can do multiple tasks at once, that you're more of an orchestrator than a task, right?
Yep.
And I was actually disappointed by their demo that it wasn't as duplex and multitask as possible, because they were like, and now I can talk to it and it'll generate a chart. And while it's generating the chart, I can ask it another question and it'll answer it. And I was like, well, by the time you finished asking your question, the chart was fully rendered on the screen. You needed a harder chart if you're going to try to demonstrate what you say you're demonstrating.
Yeah, true. But at the same time, being able to
the concept's good.
Alter it in real time, I think is really, really powerful, because I had an example where I was working with the Anthropic Claude model while on a plane yesterday, and there is nothing so annoying that as we're getting to where the gate is closing and you got to go into airplane mode and turn off your connectivity, I'm waiting on the response in order that I can now put in my next points. And would have been nice to, even in a chat experience, which is the way I was doing it, not voice experience. But by the way, I really wanted to show you this, Michael, because this one really got me torqued off here too. There are now more and more people that are using voice. And so they have these little boom microphones and they're in an office and it's making everybody crazy because everyone is mumbling to these little microphones. And we talked about this years ago.
Years ago. As a matter of fact, I was just having a conversation earlier today with one of my execs about that. He's like, I just enabled this voice capability to do that. And I'm like, why? I am not going to talk to my computer.
Yeah.
One, I like typing. I'm good at it. Two, everybody around me does not need to hear what
Mr.
I'm
Mumbles.
doing. Yes, it drives me nuts. And I'm so glad I work from home. Because when I was in the office, the most distracting thing, and we were in an open space, was I was on a table area with 4 other people, 6 people, depending on the layout. And this guy was on a conference call. This person was gabbing to himself. These 2 were having a conversation across from each other. And my ADHD was, I wanted to listen to all their conversations. And you can't. And so I couldn't be effective because the only thing worse is somebody with a clackety-clack keyboard. I know you had to get it. I knew that's what you were doing. Because I'm trying to focus. It's so easy for my brain pattern to get distracted and do other things.
Yep.
And so stop talking to your large language model in public. Do it at home. If you want to do that in privacy of your own room, you go.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. Are we being the get off my lawn kind of people?
No, because there's no lawn in my LLM. You can't spell lawn without L. Oh, crap.
Darn it.
But by the way, I just want to jump back to the thing one more time. Thinking machines got me thinking of a good friend of ours from back in the EBO days who had a band called Thinking Machine, and I will have to listen to his CDs he released back in the day. So.
Yeah, and in our pre-show, when we were going through our production meeting, I was trying to remember the other one. It was Thought Machine, which is another company entirely too. So what goes around comes around, and that's what I was doing with Claude. I was trying to come up with a cool name for an app I was working on, and every name we came up with is like, darn it, there's another 12 companies that are using those kind of things. So let's go to a company that we know pretty well. That's Google, and there was a show that you and Andy both were paying some attention to, and the one thing I saw certainly was the Google Book as a competition element for the MacBook Neo and the things that are happening around there. But what did you see in the whole list of cool and fun things from Android and Google and so on?
Yeah, so actually, I followed it a little bit online. I do have one Android device in the house. I am not a huge fan of Android. I find it clunky. I find the apps to be not as polished as what I see in most iOS apps. I have found the experience of moving between devices to be breaking. However, the Google Book is trying to resolve that because it's trying to cause that go from your phone to your tablet to your quote desktop smoothly. Right. Which you can do in the Apple ecosystem. You can't do in the Windows ecosystem because, just as another quick aside, I was working on refactoring my old blog, and I found articles on the Windows Phone coming out and how exciting that was going to compete with Android and iOS. And I can't remember if it was Gartner or Forrester were saying it's going to have 15% and then 25% of the entire market within this time period because Microsoft's behind it.
Yeah, this was with the Nokia acquisition, wasn't it?
Motorola.
Oh, okay.
So, but they had their own phone, then they bought them, right? And they had Windows Phone operating system came out the same as that wonderful, fantastic version of Windows 8. For those of you who never had the experience and joy of Windows 8, go look online. You'll enjoy it. But so that's one thing. There's an ecosystem, and the Google Book makes sense for that. And hopefully for people like my brother, who is a huge Android fan, hopefully that'll fill that niche. However, what I thought was interesting was the updates to Android Auto. Now, what they've done is kind of what Apple was showing with, what was it? Apple
CarPlay
Ultra,
yeah,
which they have one manufacturer using and the rest of them have slowly backed off. But this is
Aston Martin or somebody like that too.
Aston Martin. Yep. Yeah. This is so, and most automobiles now have Android Auto underneath it, right? They use that as kind of an operating system level. And then you might have a Apple CarPlay
on top of
space inside of it. But what they've done is they've expanded its ability to finally handle all the different screen shapes in vehicles.
Yeah, because many of them are not rectangular, right? They've got strange angles or whatever.
I mean, prior, both CarPlay and Android Auto were basically a window into something that was actually running on your phone.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And so having a defined screen space was important. What CarPlay Ultra and the new Android Auto are trying to do is become that full operating system for the vehicle, where the punch outs are for the car components instead of the punch outs being for the mobile components. And the screen displays that they're showing are fantastic. If they could do this type of screens on my Android tablet, it might be worth something. And it's shaped kind of rectangular. So those are the two things that I thought were really exciting. One, they're building that ecosystem. And two, then Android Auto screen handling is pretty impressive looking.
Yeah, super cool. Super cool. All right, moving along a little bit more. Yeah, we've got just a few minutes left to go. So we've got some cool Lego and Lego adjacent stories that we got to hit. And the first is from Retro Dodo about a Tetris arcade cabinet. And this came in from Andy, and I liked this one a lot because I have an arcade cabinet. Let's be precise with our English here.
Do you have the Pac-Man one?
No, I've got the Defender one. So the Defender one looks like this. And what's really cool about the Defender one is that you can open up the inside of the cabinet, and inside the cabinet, it's got a whole environment where there's a player, and it has a whole library and all kinds of other retro gaming things. So that's kind of cool. And that's similar to the cabinet for Tetris as well, because it's got a little secret thing inside, which is sort of like a 2-story arcade.
It's a mini arcade, yeah.
Inside of the Tetris cabinet.
Now, this is an idea set. They're hoping to get it turned into something real, as I understand it. Mm-hmm. And one of the really fun things that I've been enjoying lately on my Vision Pro is the arcade app that came out in Apple Arcade.
Oh, yeah.
What's it called? Like Virtual Arcade or something like that. Anyway, because you end up in a full 3D environment of an old 80s arcade with all the arcade cabinets sitting around, and then you say, bring that one over here, and now I can play Dig Dug.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Dig Dug. Dig Dug was fun.
Yeah, except for the fact that if you were slow on the inflate button, then they would eat you, and then you would die and lose a quarter.
Yes.
And I died a lot.
Me too. The other Lego thing that I thought was just freaking awesome was the Minus Tirith Lego.
Yes, and it's very much the movie version of it as well. So that I like it for what it is. I think the sizing of it's pretty decent too, because you've got Gandalf on Shadowfax there. Like that? Well, I'm thinking about the minifig to the environment, and naturally you can't create a city for minifigs. That would be a little over the top. But the sizing in general, looks pretty decent. It's got that broad outcropping that they had in the movie. You can do the whole Titanic scene at the front of that if you really felt like it, I guess. And it was very, very, very cool. And I didn't even look at the price point of it, because the Rivendell price point $649, I think it is. Oh, okay. So it's
$650.
So it's in the same ballpark, I guess, as Rivendell was, and about the same.
This is one that I'd love to have, but I will never buy.
Yeah, it would be a fun thing to look at, and then the next question would be, well, where would you put it, right?
Yeah.
And maybe to wrap up the show, we've got one great Lord of the Rings follow-on here, and that is we're going to go and see Lord of the Rings coming right back again to the little screen with Rings of Power later this year. Yeah,
this was supposed to come out next year. I'm a big fan of the Rings of Power series that they've been doing job on Amazon. Mm-hmm. So I've really enjoyed it. I can't wait to see season 3.
And it'll be nice when Stephen Colbert's material comes to the screen too, because that apparently is also going to arrive soon.
When this show comes for people, there'll only be 4 episodes left of the late night The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It ends next Thursday.
We're getting close to the end. Yeah. So you think he'll get the Pope on the show, or was he just like hoping for the Pope?
He's hoping for the Popin.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us again for another fun edition of GamesAtWork.biz. Drop us a line. Give us some material that you're interested in us talking about. We'll incorporate it here next week, next time on GamesAtWork.biz. See you, everybody.
Bye. You've been listening to GamesAtWork.biz, the podcast about gaming, technology, and play. We are part of the Blueberry Podcasting Network, and would like to thank the band Random Encounters for their song, Big Blue. You can follow us at our website at GamesAtWork.biz.